Sleep cannot be understated how important it is. Every time someone says, what's the biggest X factor to blood sugar control? Type 1, type 2, doesn't matter. Sleep. It's always sleep. It messes with your hunger hormones. It messes with just how much activity you're going to get. Like, it messes with everything. So you've got to focus, absolutely got to focus on that. And then beyond that, so other things I think just to note going into 2026 as we kind of think about this year and recap this year. Another one would be new tech is coming out. There's new studies coming out. There's a lot of exciting things in the world of diabetes. There's a lot of stuff with respect to the stem cells. There's a lot of stuff with respect to new technologies. There's whispers of the Dexcom G8. There's, Tandem's supposed to be releasing their tubeless pump some point in 2026. There's obviously the twist is starting to show up more and more. There's a lot of really awesome stuff that is going to be hitting the market.
Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode.
What is going on? Welcome to this episode of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast. And it's the final one for this decade known as 2025. And I say that obviously facetiously. There's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh, this year has felt like a decade, and it has felt like a long time. It has been a wild year, a lot of good, a lot of not so good. And obviously, I feel like it's important to recap it and see what lessons we can bring into 2026. But then also, I feel like just as importantly, recap it and have gratitude. Because if you are listening to this right now, despite all of the messed up stuff that may have happened this year, all of the challenges, all of the struggles, you're still here. You're still listening to this. You made it through. Congratulations, which is not a small achievement. This year has really tested, I feel like, all of us in some capacity at some level. And legitimately, if you told me 12 months ago, right now, everything that's gone on this year, I would have been like, yeah, okay, no chance. Yet here we are. That's the reality. It just kind of is what it is. But a few things that I feel like are important. And before I even do that, I just have to say, right before I started to record this episode, I had a nasty low. But part of the reason it was so nasty was because Dexcom, a common theme of this year, right? Dexcom decided to tell me that I was 104 and my finger stick said that I was, drum roll, over 70 points different. Yay. Thankfully didn't overtreat it. But I also found a video from back, I think it was January 1st or 2nd of this year, where it talked about a site being a potato and a second site being a potato. So that set the precedent in for this year. I'm hopeful that this is the precedent out, and then we can wipe our hands clean, move on to 2026 with a lot of momentum, a lot of positivity, a lot of great vibes. I heard somewhere that this 2025 year is considered year of the snake, and that this year we're, shedding all of our old habits and old skin and stuff that does not serve us anymore. So I'm hopeful that's the case, especially within the diabetes context. But a few things to note, a few things to remind. And again, we want to make sure we have gratitude here too. Number one is stress will wreck your blood sugars. It will wreck you in so many different ways. There's so many studies that have come out that have said stress is the number one thing that can potentially reduce your lifespan. Stress obviously ages you faster. Stress can impact blood sugars like crazy. Stress does so many things in a negative fashion. And of course, there's good use stress, right? Where it's, oh, you're a little bit stressed, but it's like because of competition and it's adrenaline and you're excited. That's different. I'm talking about pure, unadulterated stress. Like, you have a major exam coming up that you must pass, or otherwise, fail out of school, or you have a major situation coming up, or, oh my goodness, what's happening with blank, or my blood sugar is running amok because of X, Y, and Z, right? You get the idea. Not positive stress is what I'm referring to here. It will wreck your blood sugars. And I can say this as someone I have been through the ringer this year in terms of stress, both personally, professionally, all of the things. And then on top of that, a bunch of the stuff on the medical side, right? I've had some weird stuff come up. I've had probably more doctor's appointments in the last little bit than I've had in a long time. And knock on wood, I feel like everything's going to be fine. A lot of it's just, preventive stuff. But the biggest thing here is stress will just absolutely wreck your number. And I've talked about it in episodes before. But again, once you have stress, that cortisol goes up. Cortisol means that glucose is getting released into the bloodstream. Glucose getting released into the bloodstream means your blood sugar is going to go up and then it's going to stay up. And we do not want that. We absolutely do not want that in any capacity, or at least as minimal a capacity as possible. Some of it's going to be unavoidable. But I've had people this year, right? Hey, what's going on fill in the blank day on the blood sugars? And they literally like, oh, I was taking an exam. And you can tell exactly when the exam started and when the exam ended, just based on what the blood sugars did. That is how impactful stress can be. So imagine you look at a graph and you're looking at it, everything's good, you're chilling, you're like, huh, my number started going up and it stayed up, and then it came down. That's really interesting. Then you realize I never corrected. Well, yeah, it's because your stress was so high and your body finally relaxed after the fact. So stress management, please, self-care, please, going into 2026, set some sort of target for self-care, for stress management. And it sounds corny. It sounds, oh, I can do it later on. I'm telling you, you've got to plan it for it right now. Like press pause right now and make that thing that is going to help you handle stress in 2026. Because I'm telling you, if you do not, it is going to suddenly, you're going to blink. It's going to be the middle of March. You're not going to have done anything. And stress may be absolutely through the freaking roof. So that's number one. Number two, diabetes tech is not perfect. I had an episode just a few weeks ago about, can you trust your CGM? Can you not? As evidenced by what just happened to me a few minutes ago. Yes and no, right? I love that for my situation too. I didn't mention this before. It literally just said, sensor error. Please let it come back. What impeccable timing. Why not have an error when my number's 126 instead of when my number's allegedly in the 30s, right? Thanks. But anyways, I digress. Tech is not perfect. There's so much of a human element. And I was having this conversation a few days ago with somebody. They weren't in the diabetes space. And they were just like, hey, well, I've heard, insulin pumps are so great. They do so many things. They just do it all for you, right? And I'm like, no, they don't. The only pump that kind of sort of ish does is the iLet. And even then, there's limitations within that won't allow your numbers to be as tightly controlled as you may want. And I think the important thing here is it comes down to the person. It comes down to the user. You can do amazing on MDI. You can do amazing on an insulin pump. You can do amazing on, whatever regimen that you need, that you have decided with your care team is going to work for you. But the pump is not going to do everything. There's still a massive user. And if you want to be lazy, but on the best technology, you're still not going to have great numbers. If you want to be on top of your game on MDI, using Lantus and Novolog like it's, 15 years ago, you can thrive on that too. Prime examples of that, right? Patient in our practice, literally on the newest stuff, A1C's up in the 10s, having a hard time with, corralling it, remembering the dose, remembering what to do, etc. Somebody else just a couple days ago messages me, Christmas, hey, hope you have an amazing holiday or had an amazing holiday. This is how I did on Christmas. Blood sugars were perfect the entire time. Nothing. Ate all the food, did all the things, did not deprive, nothing. You would not even know they had diabetes. That's how tight their control was. That was on MDI. So again, the technology is great. Do not be over-reliant on it. I think you should know it, and this leads into my next point. Even if you are on a pump, I think you should have a backup for some sort of injection because you're good in case, the pump has a problem. But second, I think every single person should know how to do a pump break and how to go on MDI. And as you may remember, over the summer this year, I got so fed up from just bad site after bad site that I finally said, you know what, F it, I'm done. I'm going to switch to MDI. And I did for about 2.5-ish months, 2.5, 3 months. I was on MDI the entire time. We traveled, stayed on MDI. We went on a week-long trip in the summer and we were hiking like crazy. I have an episode about it. I went on a 7-mile hike on MDI and had no problem with the blood sugars because you don't need to be on the pump. You can be on MDI and be okay. But I think you should know how to transition off of the pump and onto MDI and back, just because it is a skill that is so important. Because what's the worst thing that happens, right? Okay, hey, I know how to do this. I maybe had a day or two where it was slightly inconvenient and I went back to my pump. But then if God forbid something happens, your pump fails, they have to overnight you a new pump. You have 24 hours, potentially longer, where you may not have a pump and you need to know what to do to stay in range so you don't end up bouncing around all the time and feeling like trash and getting potentially in a situation where it could be more risky. So you have to know what to do for MDI. I don't care what system you're on. If you're on a pump, you have to know how to do MDI. And taking a pump break periodically can be really nice. I'm not going to lie. The only reason I switched back from MDI was I got a little bit annoyed with having to inject like 12 times in a day. And I'm also someone who's a little more OCD, right? I'm someone that's a little more, I'm going to be, here's part 1 of the meal, here's part 2, here's part 3. I wanted the ability to say dial up, boom. That was it. And for me, and I'm knock on wood, right? When the sites work, everything's great. Everything is absolutely incredible when the sites work. The problem is when the sites don't work, and that's what led me to go to MDI in the first place. But you should have the ability to bounce between those different mechanisms, because then you have the true freedom. You have the ultimate situation of this is what needs to happen. This is what I need to do if things hit the fan or if I don't feel like being attached to something right now. Another thing notable from this year, sleep. I talk about it all the time on here, but sleep absolutely impacts blood sugar. Again, personally, I'm saying this, sleep, I will say straight up, right? Like I know myself, I know my limitations. Sleep this year has not been my best, especially the last 6 months or so. It has not been the best that it's ever been in my life. Fully aware of that, fully understand that. And my blood sugars reflect that, right? My blood sugars have not been the best personally that I've had. Now, am I over here telling myself I'm a failure? No. If a doctor were to look at my numbers, would they tell me that I'm probably fine? Yes. But at the same time, sleep makes a massive difference. I'm talking 7+. I would almost put that barrier down or put that line down in the sand at 7. Under 7, it's not like you're going to fall off a cliff. But if you're under 6, it's going to be a problem. If you're between 6 and 7, it's 6, 7. Look what I did there. But if you're, 7 hours or more, you're going to be in a much, much more advantageous situation. Obviously, 8 hours per night, 9 hours per night, much better situation. But got to focus on at least 7 hours of sleep if you want the blood sugars to be happy. And again, seeing it in my numbers, seeing it in patients' numbers, seeing it all over the place, sleep cannot be understated how important it is. Every time someone says, what's the biggest X factor to blood sugar control? Type 1, type 2, doesn't matter. Sleep. Always sleep. It messes with your hunger hormones. It messes with just how much activity you're going to get. Like it messes with everything. So you've got to focus, absolutely got to focus on that. And then beyond that, so other things I think just to note going into 2026 as we kind of think about this year and recap this year, another one would be new tech is coming out. There's new studies coming out. There's a lot of exciting things in the world of diabetes. There's a lot of stuff with respect to the stem cells. There's a lot of stuff with respect to new technologies. There's whispers of the Dexcom G8. There's, Tandem's supposed to be releasing their tubeless pump some point in 2026. There's obviously the twist is starting to show up more and more. There's a lot of really awesome stuff that is going to be hitting the market. So what I don't want is for you to give up hope at all. If you're like, hey, this year's been really rough for my blood sugars, been rough for me in general, I don't want you to give up hope that, hey, this is it. This is how it's always going to be. Because it does not have to be like that, right? You ultimately get to choose what it's going to be like and you frame a lot of what's going on. But there are a lot of really awesome breakthroughs coming out and coming through. And again, you might be like, oh, well, I've had diabetes for 40 years. And every year they say we're 5 years away. And I've had it for 26, right? Almost 26 and a half. That's crazy. But what I'm saying is I've heard every time, oh, when I was a kid, oh, in 10 years we'll have a cure. Oh, in 5 years we'll have a cure. It never obviously has happened. And that it kind of just is what it is. But I will say the technology coming out keeps getting better and better and better. And now it's a totally different ballgame than when I was, 7, 8, 9, 10, even 15 to 18, 20 years old. Even 15 years ago, it was totally different than it is right now. So you have to keep the faith because ultimately, what's your other choice? You can either be down in the dumps from a negative perspective, which again, there's research that's shown that, people that are optimistic do live longer and have higher quality of life. So you can choose to be optimistic, even if you have to fake that you're optimistic until it finally sinks in. Or you can say, oh, well, it's the woe is me, everything sucks. And yeah, if you want that approach, everything will suck. Absolutely cannot understate enough. And for 26, you need to be focusing on your mindset. Because I'm not going to say, oh, mindset's going to solve your blood sugar issues. It absolutely won't. But what it will do is open your mind up to be able to receive the information that you need to be able to have incredible blood sugars moving forward, not just in 2026, but in years and years to come from there. And then another thing I have to mention too, and this is something I feel like you should probably consider doing, it's close to the end of the year. Maybe you're listening to this and it is the end of the year. It's the start of 2026. But I think it's really important to sit down, go through some of the major things that happened this past year, right? Go all the way from January all the way to December. Of course, a lot of times you tell people to sit down and they're thinking, oh, well, this past month was blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, that's very biased because you're right. And it was very recent. You want to go all the way back to January. Easy way might be if you take pictures on your phone or, you post on social media or whatever, going all the way back there and saying, okay, let's start here. What's going on in 2026 or in 2025? And then think about, what do I want to change in 2026? And what do I want to be the same? What do I want to get better? And what do I want to just leave in 2025 and not deal with again? And I mean, this might be a 30-minute, 45-minute activity, but I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely paramount to your success. And I think during this time too, expressing a ton of gratitude for the awesomeness, because again, if you are listening to this, no matter how crappy 2025 may have been, from a blood sugar standpoint, diabetes standpoint, health standpoint, whatever, like I said, I have been through the freaking ringer this year with stuff that is far outside the scope of this podcast, but just know, like, it's been brutal. But what I can also say gratefully is I'm still here. We're still here. We're still thriving. Even if it doesn't feel like we're thriving, we are still thriving. We are still here. And the only way things are going to improve is if you take that approach of, I am grateful for the stuff that I do have. If I don't acknowledge it, then it's as if I don't have it at all. So I am going to acknowledge what I do have, what I'm grateful for. And then I'm going to say, hey, here's what I want to accomplish in this next year, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to stay open with that mindset and just keep reframing that mindset. If I start falling off track, oh, it's not possible. No, it actually is possible. Damn it. I am going to get this done. I am going to make this happen because I know in my heart of hearts that it is going to happen. It is going to happen for me because I am going to facilitate that. I'm going to make it actually a reality for myself or my kid or my family or whatever. So I really feel like this is just absolutely paramount. If nothing else, if you have acquired no other knowledge from all these podcasts that you listen to, which hopefully is not the case, but if nothing else, please, I'm telling you, do this. It has the absolute potential to change your life over the next 12 months, 12 years, 12 decades, however long of a time frame. So with that, happy end of 2025. Happy New Year, coming in fast, coming in hot. It is going to be great. I am super excited for the new year, for the new opportunities, for everything else. So with that, I'm hoping you're doing amazing. Let me know how these things go. Message me over on social media at Your Diabetes Insider. I finally made that tweak, upgrade, getting better. And if you're like, hey, I want those better blood sugars, I'm serious about it, I've got to make it happen for 2026, then holler at me, yourdiabetesinsider.com. All of us are dietitians on my team. All of us have exercise backgrounds. All of us have the beatus. We've got your back. We're here to support you however we can. But with that, I'll catch you in the next episode, and Happy New Year.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.